Welcome to ArtKyk. This is Urvacha.
And this is Yamini. We love to talk about art.
So do join us as we share our insights of this world with you. Hi, Yamini.
Hey, Urvacha.
So we were having a really interesting discussion the other day on, valuation of Indian artworks. And we started looking at some of the price points, some of the highest price points Indian artists have achieved. Quickly run us through some of these.
Absolutely. These are records from the previous year and goes back way beyond just the year. So it's not that all the top 5 prizes from the year 2021, but highest prizes achieved so far. And of course, topping that list is the Gaitonde that we have, which was sold at Saffronart, the 1961 work, which sold at 5.3 million, or about close to 40 crores. Then we have the Amrita Shergill, which sold at 37.8 crores, or just about $50 million.
And 5 million.
I wish. I think that's the the hidden subtext that we need to push there, or we need to get there. But no, I think you're right. It's about $5 million, and yet again from Saffronart. If I were to list out the names, it would pretty much go Gaitonde, Souza, F.N. Souza, Tayyab Mehta, Raja Ravi Varma, Akbar Padamsi. These are your top contenders.
So some of the most dominant modernists in the Indian artist pantheon, right?
Absolutely. Of course, one name that slipped is S.H. Raza. How can you forget Raza?
Yeah.
And how he creates, waves and record prices that are achieved.
You're right. We were looking at, some of the high valuation Indian artists achieving and getting excited about them. I mean, firstly, I think it'll be good to sort of talk about why we get excited about high valuations. It's not to say, that art is meaningful because it achieves a really, really high price, but it kind of shows the strength of, what people are willing to put towards art. And maybe not all artworks are going to, achieve a 1 million plus price band, but it encourages a lot of the industry and, new artists to continue to strive towards, making this a profession and people buying more and investing more, etc. So that's a whole different discussion. We got a little despondent when we started comparing the highest price Indian top artists have achieved as compared to what's happening in, some of the more established Western worlds or even Chinese markets. If you look at those prices, forget about the $500 million that Leonardo got for Salvatore Mundi. But if you just look at the well-known names, the Picassos, the Cézanne, even Basquiat increasingly, or an Andy Warhol, and they all have these 100 million plus price tags for some of the most important works, you start to wonder, the lack of that strength in the Indian art world. That with a 1 million plus price band, not again qualifying it, not to sort of, it doesn't show the quality of an artwork or always judge that by that market. But how little this space has prospered in the Indian sphere.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are multiple, factors to it. But just for somebody who's listening in, one thing that really, that we should kind of acknowledge is that when we look at any market, especially a European market, that has a very long, unbroken tradition of the trade aspect of a work of art. What do I mean by that? Like, look at the auction houses itself. Maybe initially 200 years ago, they were not about setting a record price, but at least there was a market or a way that you could deal with a work of art. How do you sell a work of art? Those norms and practices were well established, and a habit was always there that you could go into an auction and buy a work. when you compare it to what happens in India
And
or
just
any
to
market,
add to that,
yeah,
Yamini, and these were documented. So all sales through an auction,
yes.
even if it's 250 years old, so people knew what was being bought and sold.
And that kind of established a very deep network of systems. And when we talk about an auction, especially, there has to be a familiarity. There has to be a tradition that you have of saying that you buy in an auction, or what does it mean to buy in an auction, or how is an auction different from, say, a primary or a secondary market, which we have done these talks. So for those of you who want to listen in, you can go back to it and see what those talks are about. So the auction market is actually something that is reflected when your first point of contact, your primary and secondary market, are well established and a well formulated network. And that is one of the reasons. And the second is, we're fairly new to the game. So say we're about 60 years into this whole aspect of art as a commodity, or establishing a gallery network. So it does take time, for these markets to evolve and develop. That's one way of looking at it. And again, just to kind of call it out loud, it in no way reflect the aesthetics or the kind of work or the thoughts that go. Absolutely. I mean, there's no comparison. I mean, you cannot compare it, but it does not reflect on quality, but it just reflects on the trade mechanisms which are not in place. But anyway, I think we should just talk about what makes these artists that special, or why these artists repeatedly, not as a one-off, but repeatedly, these names keep featuring. One is, like you mentioned, Urvaja, it's about provenance, documentation. Though that's not the first thing that will set a record. I think I started off from a very random place. It no way means that if a work has a fantastic provenance, it's going to sell well, or it's going to set a record price. There are multiple factors in it. I think the first one is, of course, the artist itself. Why is that artist coveted? Or, why is it that people want that work? One is critical acclaim. Second is, what is it that the artist is talking about? For instance, if you take about Raza, he reflects a moment when artists were looking at what does it mean to be an Indian artist? And he found a way that was so unique to talk about it. Or if you look at Souza, the rebellious, or the one who questioned everything. So each of these artists have something that is so unique and it stands out from the others. I think that is important. You can never ever forget that. And of course, the quality of work. What do I mean by that? For instance, if I say, let's look at Souza, and does it mean that if he painted hypothetically, some 2,000 works, each and every one of the Souzas is of the highest or reflects the best of the artist's work? No, there will always be something that's the highlight of a particular body of works, and that becomes more desirous, which is kind of reflected in his any of his record works, that you would say the birth or the crucifixion, anything. They are
If
the
somebody
best.
was to go out and understand what are the most important artworks that are associated with an artist, it's a pretty individual search, right? There's still a lot of these artists, and these important works are not part of our daily lexicon, as they even, most sort of people would know about a Van Gogh or a Monet or a Picasso. But very few people in the country would talk about a Gaitonde or a Shergill or, any of these artists.
True. Again, I think which reflects to the lack of information. For instance, why is it easy to know about Picasso or Van Gogh or Dali, for that instance? Because there are books that are available. There is so much of information which is out there. But if you were to do a search and try and find out anything about, Tayyab Mehta, what is it that you will find? I think that's one of the reasons why you don't have people talking about it, or it's not common knowledge. Anyway, the other aspects of course, aesthetics and critical acclaim. What do I mean by that? What is critical acclaim? It's when an art historian or somebody who looks at it purely from aesthetics and is not concerned about what is the value of the work, what is the gallery selling it at, or who wants it. But they look at the work in terms of what is it that the artist is trying to say, how has he achieved it, how does it stand in comparison to the other peers. That is critical acclaim. And so when somebody who's a specialist in that writes about it, that adds value to it. And that's how you have catalogs that are published for an exhibition. I can go on and on about it, but to kind of make it short and sweet, what I began with, the provenance. And somehow the provenance also ties into all the two qualities that I spoke about, which was the caliber or the importance of that artist, the aesthetics of that particular work. So it's kind of funny. It's like the person who buys it also adds value to it, buys it for the first time. That,
which is a unique aspect of the art sector, and I guess some collectors as well.
Correct. So that's why if it says, it's come from that person, that collector's thing, you sit back and say, that is something special. It's kind of a circular thing where the artist, the work, and the person who buys it all kind of add the value. And it's that word which comes in, aura.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's difficult to explain it in a very
it's almost like you're buying into an artwork for sure, but you're also buying into a story about the art.
Yes, it's intangible. This question also comes up many a time, like if there was no signature and if you looked at the work, would it still command the same price? And I say sometimes easy to answer that in context to the work that you're looking at. Sometimes it becomes a little difficult because it is so subjective. At the same time, the auction platform kind of makes it say that no, it is subjective, but at the same time, there's a herd mentality saying that if this one has liked it, there is something about it. So it gives you kind of that comfort feeling. I can't go that wrong.
Because I mean, don't forget, at the end of the day, I know for the Indian market, we not talk about humongous prices as compared to something else, but you're putting forward, substantial amount of money towards something that is it's largely an intangible valuation, right? Concept of why would art be valued at what it is. It's something more than just the canvas and the paint that goes into it.
Absolutely.
So that the story or the provenance or what else has been associated with an artwork, be it a museum, an exhibition, which other auctions it was featured in, it all adds to that, the depth of why that value should hold.
It's all about the artist. What has the artist done? And also that's also kind of answers the question like why you see so many of the models, because there's such a long history to their career. They've put like decades of work of their life in this whole process of creating the work. So that's one of the reasons. So it's the artist, to begin with. It's that particular, within that artist, it's that specific work or from that specific. Sometimes it's a period, sometimes it's a series, sometimes it's just a standalone painting that matters. And to add to these two things, these are the foundational requirements for any of the record-breaking works that we've seen so far. And of course, added advantage is the provenance, who owned it and how clear is the provenance history. And then things like, yes, was it published in an important book that has been written on the artist? Do you have published press reviews of the artist? Was it exhibited? Who's commented on it? Every little snippet of information or aspect of information adds to it. Then things like condition of the work, it has its original frame. The artist's exhibition tag exists onto it. Every little detail kind of makes it that much more desirable and valuable, and hence you see the record breaking.
So, Yamini, to sum it up, what's our prognosis for pricing going forward or valuation going forward? Just to see, even if you're going to emulate the Chinese market and more artists achieving higher valuations?
I think yes, as we kind of have more, awareness, how does that come in through publications, exhibitions, and the online medium has opened up so many possibilities, and there are so many means of accessing information. The more educated the audiences are, the more information is available. It reflects in a very positive manner in the market, and definitely things will only go up from here on.
So we remain excited about high valuations. We don't see that as a
Absolutely.
thing about art.
And also, like you pointed out, the awareness, comparison, like, hey, this is happening. What is here? It's not to say that, oh, Picasso sold for 100 million. So do we do this over here also? No, it doesn't work that way. But it's just a more aware audience, which is well educated, well equipped, and well informed.
Excellent. Well, we'll wind down here for this one.
Yes, that was a fantastic synopsis, I think.
It was. I think it was an interesting discussion. You were listening to ArtKyk, where we share personal views on subjects in the art world.
For more such content, please visit our website, www.artkyk.com. That's ARTKYK. Keep listening.